So welcome everyone to Belong Be Becomes monthly Facebook Live, where I share well-being tips and techniques for early childhood professionals. And I'm very excited to be here tonight with the lovely Jessica Zabo. Got that right? Who is a clinical nutritionist as well as a yoga teacher, and that is actually how we know each other. And she's going to be talking a lot about nutrition, healthy ways to prepare and also live. Prepare meals and live. God, my words aren't coming out right tonight. I might just leave the rest to you, Jess, because I am under the weather today. So obviously I'm not doing this very well. First of all, welcome and thank you so much for joining. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. Yes, my name is Jessica Zabo. I am a clinical nutritionist and a yoga teacher. So I hold a Bachelor of Health Science in Nutritional and Dietetic Medicine. And the reason that I got into studying nutrition was about 10 or so years ago, I was experiencing some health issues for myself. And I radically changed my diet, and I experienced literally a revolutionary change in my health and my well-being and my outlook. And that's when I also really started to get into yoga. So I've really it's been kind of my dharma, we would say in yoga, kind of a life's purpose to learn and to grow and to be able to share what I've learned with other people so that I can help them to improve their lives. And in terms of nutrition specifically, when I started, not formally, but just on my own accord, learning, studying what I could about how nutrition affects our health, I honestly couldn't get over the science that is out there that conveys how much, first of all, our diet affects our chances of getting certain diseases or how long that we live, even our mental health. And further beyond that, how dietary interventions actually have these dramatic results when they're actually put to the test. And so I decided to study formally and become a nutritionist so I can share that with other people.
Oh, that's amazing, Jess. And you always hold it so much like dearer to your heart when it's something that, you know, you've actually experienced in some way or another. You know, that always turns into some kind of passion. So I think that's amazing that you've ended up here. And I think what I even said to you before, the very thing that I love most about your approach is that you call yourself a holistic nutritionist. That's right. Holistic health is your logo. So maybe you can just expand a little bit more on the gut brain connection, or I guess you could probably describe this a lot better. But so what does it mean, I guess, to be holistically healthy?
Sure. So well, first of all, I should say that I do have my own company or business. It's Alea Holistic Health is what I'm called. Alea is a Sanskrit word for home. And so I decided to call it that because I feel like when we change our diet and we change our lifestyle, we come home to the health that most of us are born with, and that it's a natural state that we should be in. And oftentimes when we look at things reductionistically, the saying of losing the forest through the trees. And it's one thing to be, say, eating a diet where you're eating all the right foods and you're, meeting all of your requirements, but yet your mindset might be unhealthy. And so that's just one part of it. Your relationship with food might actually be unhealthy. So just looking at one thing doesn't always give you the full picture. Health is holistic. And so the approach to optimizing health also has to be holistic. And it doesn't just stop with diet. I mean, what you eat, how you think, how you move, how you approach stress. Stress isn't just bad. We have good stress and bad stress. We need stress to grow and adapt. It's how we perceive stress and how we manage our stress that is the biggest difference.
Wow. And so I guess this is really, really, this resonates a lot with early child professionals who are some of the most stressed out and burnt out professionals in the world. So I guess the main challenges for us is that we're pretty time poor, energy poor, immunity, like we were talking about before. There's lots of different things that affect and compromise our health, and a lot of things that we're probably totally unaware of. Not only that, just like, you know, I've already learned so much just listening to you already. I don't know much about health myself. So depending on where you want to start from here about those different challenges and how they affect health and maybe how we can combat those things, maybe you could just talk a little bit on that as well.
Absolutely. So some things that came to mind as you alluded to just there, some common areas that early childhood educators or professionals are most prone to experiencing. Other things that a lot of people are prone to experiencing, you already mentioned immunity and stress, energy management, cognition, how you think, mood, how you feel. And all of these things actually tie into your gut health. Your gut is essentially the maestro or the governor of your health. And when I say your gut, I'm really referring to what's called the microbiota. And this is basically a collection of microbes, bacteria, fungi, viruses, parasites, and these really ancient things called archaea, hence the name. And they essentially determine the main physiological functions in your body. We already mentioned some of them: immunity, 80%, 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut.
Huge.
Hormone metabolism. Your gut determines how much active estrogen you have in your body. Cognition and mood. Your gut produces 90% of serotonin, which is a feel-good hormone. It has lots of other.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
90%.
Yes, I know.
Whoa, that's revelation.
I know. And so, okay, not all of that serotonin gets into your brain, but the precursors to serotonin do. They pass what's called the blood-brain barrier, which is essentially a lining that encapsulates around the central nervous system. And then beyond that, your gut also affects your metabolism, how you process your food. And so they've done these crazy studies where they've taken the gut bacteria or the microbes in a skinny mouse and they put it into an obese mouse, and they change their body weight completely with the same diet. And they've done that vice versa. And they've seen it in humans as well. So we can address gut health. If we can eat in a way that optimizes our gut health, we essentially just tick off all of these common concerns that a lot of us have, but also, of course, early childhood educators have as well.
Which we are more prone to experiencing these things. And I think, so we've got the immunity issues or the hormonal issues, lack of time, motivation. But I think what it really comes down to is actually just being completely and utterly physically and emotionally depleted. So I guess what a lot of listeners would want to know right now is, okay, how can I make myself a bit more aware about healthy food choices? And how can this be a simple way for me to start preparing and cooking healthier meals for myself? So you've mentioned that you're an advocate for plant-based food, and that's obviously something that you've done a lot of research into and understand how beneficial it is for gut health. So where could you start in suggesting healthier options for people? Like, what are some essential things that they need and that they can be worked with, that can be really versatile in the kitchen?
So I'm really glad that you used the word simple just now, because really people like to overcomplicate. And when we overcomplicate, it's a great opportunity to sell things, whether they be books or certain products. You need to have this in order to be healthy. It is very simple. And I choose to eat a plant-based diet myself for many reasons, but you don't have to be plant-based to have a healthy gut. But what you do need to have is a diet that is based on an abundance of whole plant foods. What they are whole grains. So think oats, brown rice, millet, barley. There's a myriad of them, especially if you go down to if you have a an ethnic store, like an Arab store or an Indian or a Nepalese, oh my gosh, you'd be in heaven for these.
Yeah.
And
There's one in Newtown, the Fiji shop, and it's, you're just like, whoa, this is a whole new world.
and they're so readily available, they're easy to store, they're cheap, and they just so happen to be the foods that are most associated with reduced disease risk of almost everything, and also of longevity. Now, the other key food to include are legumes. So these are chickpeas, beans, split peas, and lentils. Now, these foods are extremely high in pretty much all of the nutrients, really high in fiber, which we'll get back to, is really important. Also really high in iron and folate and magnesium and antioxidants. Then, of course, fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. So if you can base your diet around these foods, you're going to be heads and shoulders above where you can ever imagine. In terms of the science that's based on this, and specifically in terms of that health of the gut that we're talking about, that helps to address all of these different major facets of our health, what they found was it didn't matter what dietary label you used. That doesn't matter. What matters is the diversity of whole plant foods in your diet. What did they find? They found that those in their diet over a week with over 30 unique whole plants had the best gut health. And that's because different plants have different fibers, which feed different good gut bacteria. And so the saying you are what you eat really is you are what your gut microbes eat. And good gut microbes eat fiber.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And just for those that aren't plant-based, explicitly, what would you suggest a good, like, hearty kinds of meat to eat? Like, obviously ethically sourced and organic would be best, right? But anything that you'd suggest in particular for those that have meat in their diet?
In terms of health outcomes, fish is a lot better than meat. Processed meat is pretty much the worst food that you can eat. That's what all the science suggests. I mean, it's quite crazy. I mean, like just a tiny amount of processed meat in your diet daily is associated with huge increased risks of all sorts of diseases. And so processed meat, you really, as little as possible, get it out. That stuff is so incredibly bad for you, and all the science shows that. Red meat is also not good. You want to have that as little as possible. So then it's your white meats that like chicken are less unhealthy according to the science, and then fish then is better than chicken. So that would be your spectrum. But oftentimes when we have this conversation, the dialogue goes, okay, chicken is better than red meat, therefore chicken is healthy and I should be eating it all the time. That's not really what the science shows. Just because something's better than something else doesn't make it, this amazing healthy food. It just means it's not as bad as that. It's always compared to what, which is the most important question to ask.
Okay. Yeah. Really good to know. Learning a lot. Okay. So yeah, things like, because I'm just thinking as well, like a lot of people, especially that aren't plant-based, might feel like, oh, that's not enough for me. So what can I do to really fill up my plate, or how can I make these meals exciting, every day of the week? What would you say to that?
So what I would suggest is take a meal that you eat and then ask yourself, how can I add more plants to this meal? That's it. And then across the week, that's what you do in a meal. Across the week, you say, okay, I'm at the supermarket. How can I add more variety? Parsnip, what the hell is that? That's put plants in the basket. You just try to expand and go outside of your kind of comfort zone and just try things. And then in terms of adding, say you're making something that people would commonly probably make is like a spaghetti bolognese. So I'm not saying you have to just take out the meat and just have lentils and never see the meat again, but it's better if you, instead of just having your meat with tomato sauce, have your onions, have your garlic, have your celery, have your carrot, have your mushrooms, have your capsicum, add spinach and kale, just a bag, chuck a handful in there, add your like red kidney beans or black beans. You can mix it up even in those one food group. It's still a different type of food. It still has different fiber, as well as your mince. And that's 10 different plant points in a meal where you normally wouldn't have, you're only one or two. So just adding more veg in. Don't think of what am I not having. Don't be in a mindset of depletion or of have not. Be in a mindset of abundance. More
That's
plants.
a good point. Yeah, love that. And then I suppose like if you're making something like you suggested, which is, that would be something I guess a lot of educators have time for, is just chuck some pasta on, chuck some sauce in there, and bang, there you go. But I suppose you could also use that sauce for something else as well. Like it could be used for other meals. If you just pack it in with all your veggies, you could use it for, I can't even think of an example, a pizza base maybe. Add some cheese on top or something like that.
Absolutely. I mean, if you can allot yourself some time to do some preparation. And okay, in this case, what takes an amount of time? Well, it's probably going to be chopping. So if you just have time where you do a whole lot of chopping of a whole lot of different vegetables, and then you get them into some sort of, whether it's some sort of sauce, a bolognese that we've been talking about with beans, and then you make your pasta for that. Well, then the next night, or even that same night, if you know you're not going to have much time, the next night, you whack some sweet potatoes into the oven and then you cut them, and you use that same sauce in there. And then maybe
that sounds good.
It's good. And you can add things. It doesn't ever have to be, this work of art. Simple is better. And what, in terms of craving, you crave what you eat every day. You decide your cravings. And in fact, your gut bacteria a lot of the time decide your cravings as well. So when you're feeding your gut the right food and you start to proliferate those good gut bacteria, they'll tell you, yeah, give me some more of that sweet potato dish. That was good. We like that. It's going to change.
Wow. And so, okay, this is a question for you then. Does it start with the mentality first? Like, because this obviously is communicating with this. So the mindset also has to be there.
Absolutely.
Right? That okay, that's another question then. What is the best way to actually value your health? Like I always say that we should believe that we're worth taking care of, because I think a lot of us will go, oh yeah, I do believe it, but well, do you? Are you making the right choices, in your diet or in your relationships? Like, again, so many different elements to valuing what your health is, and being in the right mind state will actually mean, well, I am going to choose these foods instead of these foods, or I'm going to choose being surrounded by these people or these people. So yeah, in terms of it, where does it start? And how would you promote finding a positive state of mind to start this journey on your health and nutrition?
You kind of touched on two things there.
Load of questions, sorry. Yeah.
One thing is, and this can be difficult for some people to process or accept, but whoever is watching this, you deserve to be healthy and you deserve to feel good. You deserve that. You do. You deserve it.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes we feel that we don't, especially women. And we feel that we don't have to prioritize ourselves, and that maybe we're not important than that other thing, but you are. Yeah. You're important. And
you'll find a lot of people in this job, majority of people that work in early childhood education are givers. We're not people that do things to get instant gratification. Like we are worked to the bone in early childhood. And I think that is a huge part that actually, we don't really think about ourselves. So continue what you were saying.
And the other thing is that even if we feel that caring for someone else is more important than caring for ourselves, we can't care for somebody else to our fullest potential if we're not caring for ourselves first.
My
It's
mantra.
the
Yeah.
whole it's the whole oxygen mask scenario on a plane. Put your own oxygen mask on first before you can help someone else. The other part to this is, in my opinion, knowledge. A lot of people don't know just how much what they decide from a nutritional perspective, they don't know just how much what they decide to put in their mouth affects how they live their life in terms of the quality and in terms of the quantity of those years. People don't know. So it might blow your mind to learn that our biggest interaction with our environment is in our gut. The biggest relationship interface that we have with the world around us is our gut. And so what you eat makes the biggest difference to your health, because that's where you're interacting with your environment the most.
Well, it affects everything, right? It affects your energy levels. If you are what you eat. If you're sad, you're going to reach for like a brownie rather than a banana, probably. You know,
we talked about, you were mentioning before, how does it work? What's this direction of relationship? Well, when I was at university and I was studying biology, and I'm going to age myself here, in 2008, I learned about the nervous system as being the central nervous system, the brain and the spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system, so your nerves through your body. When I started studying my Bachelor of Health Science, suddenly there was the central nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, and you're not going to see my hands, but I'm going to put them on my belly, and the enteric nervous system. So you have more nerves in your gut than you do in your spinal cord.
What? Really?
And
wow, no wonder it's so damn sensitive.
and your enteric nervous system is older than your central nervous system. It evolved way before. So
fascinating.
Our gut is so integral to our health. And there are old proverbs of health starts in the gut, and they're 100% true.
Wow, that just blew my mind. You're doing all of these like explosions of knowledge. Man, it really is so important. So important.
What we eat matters.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess that's how like yoga is kind of that natural progression of all this, isn't it? When you're like, oh, mind, body, spirit, everything really is connected. So I can totally understand how you got into that path. Something else that I wanted to ask, and if you just know off the top of your head, these common challenges like maybe poor immunity or hormonal imbalances, and again, that just lethargy that we experience as educators. What are maybe some foods, and not supplements because we're not going to go there, but healthy lifestyle practices that could help to increase the stamina of those things?
Right. So in terms of everything that you just said, if your gut function is working well, I mean, you have a good balance of microbes in your gut, a lot of that is going to kind of sort itself out for you. So if you address those key areas of increasing your fiber, increasing your plant diversity, a lot of that is going to really help you in those departments.
Yeah.
But then in terms of immunity, we'll start with that first. Essentially, if you're eating a diet that is primarily whole foods, where you're getting a lot of your micronutrients, because for your immune system, there are some key nutrients that are important, but if you're getting a balanced diet and you're getting primarily all, if you can, of your foods as whole foods, a lot of those nutrients are just going to kind of sort themselves out. But just
and whole foods, sorry, Jess, sorry to interrupt you, but whole foods again was those things like grains that you mentioned, like barley, millet.
Food. So whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. They're your whole plant foods. But you can also include animal foods like eggs and meat and fish in there. They're whole plant foods. And basically anything that doesn't come with and some whole plants or whole foods do come with a nutrition label, but basically anything that doesn't have an ingredients list, this long, they're ultra processed foods. You're going to most likely be fine in accomplishing all of your different micronutrient needs. But some key ones are vitamin C. And so my little fruit mask I
Oh
have.
yeah, cute. I'm glad you got it out.
So a lot of fruits are high in vitamin C, like citrus fruits, strawberries, kiwi fruit, especially the yellow ones. And
Mm,
and then things like melon and just lots of different types of fruits. And remember, we're going for diversity here as
yep.
well, which is
Yep.
all really important. And then fruits that are rich in zinc as well is good for the immune system. So if you're eating meat, zinc is in meat, but it's also in our whole grains, it's in seeds, especially pumpkin seeds, and it's
Mm,
also in legumes as well. So
okay.
and
Your
yeah, so
chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans.
yeah,
Yep.
all those things, especially lentils. And so, yeah, those are the main ones there. Then, in terms of hormone balance, your body knows what to do with that. It produces its own hormones from cholesterol that it produces in the liver. It's really the gut that's determining how much is being released into the body and how much isn't. So, if you can balance the gut microbes with lots of different fibers, you're going to be good there as well. But you
Mm-hmm.
do want to make sure that you're having, because when you are what's called insulin resistant, that can occur when you have what's called fatty liver disease. And this is type 2 diabetes, where it goes down the road to. That can disturb your hormones as well. So if you're
Mm,
eating a diet, again, that's high in fiber and that's low in these saturated fat, trans fat foods that can exacerbate or lead to this liver issue, then you're going to be okay there too.
okay. Great
Yeah.
responses. You lack a fountain of knowledge, Jess. It's awesome. Now I've forgotten my last question. Oh, yeah. So because a lot of us are running on empty by the end of the day, and this is something I've talked about a lot in other in other interviews and in other things that I do to promote the well-being of educators, our fight or flight system, our nervous system, central nervous system, is pretty much on all the time, right? We're in a constant state of anticipation as educators. And I guess what would also be really helpful is to know, first of all, what time should we be eating roughly before we go to bed? And also, what are some things that we can eat to help, or eat or drink to help calm us down and bring us back to that state of, I don't even know what you call it, equilibrium, because that is really hard to turn off. And from someone who's worked in the sector for 15 years, I've do all these practices, and I still find, even when I'm on my lunch break, it takes me a good 10 minutes to actually take a deep breath and feel like I'm back again. So what could you suggest there?
Yeah, sure. So I kind of touched on it a moment ago. So in terms of wanting to have kind of constant energy, we don't want to have this kind of peak and then a big crash. We kind of want to have energy that gives us a more
Mm,
stability throughout the day. And so
yep.
what's really great for that are complex carbohydrates.
All the above.
So this is especially things like your whole grains and your legumes, your fruits and your vegetables. The carbohydrates that are bound with fiber, and they're in this complex with other nutrients. So they very slowly release energy as you go. Now, what's really interesting is that, and kind of annoying, is that people have really demonized carbohydrate foods. And they've kind of said, oh, well, a banana has sugar in it, so it's the same as eating, I don't know, a lolly or, a Mars bar or something like that. This is absolute bogus. Carbs are healthy. It just depends on their package. So
Aha.
carbohydrates in fruits, vegetables, in these whole foods, they're in a matrix of fiber, of water, of all these different things. And they've actually done studies where they did it with berries. They had people drink sugar water, and then they had them eat berries. They had them drink a berry syrup. And even though they were adding sugar, because there's sugar in the berries, their glucose spike was blunted, and they didn't get that crash in their blood sugar
Ah.
afterward. So it just shows how important it is not to just consider the macronutrients that are in foods. We need to consider foods in their whole form, because they're not just carbohydrates, they're not just proteins, they're not just fats, they're foods, and they function in the body differently. So I would have to
Mm,
say that if throughout your day, make sure that you're eating these complex carb foods to give you the stable energy, and that you avoid eating too late as well. You're wanting to give your digestive system a good rest. What's also interesting is that the body's ability to metabolize its food actually gets really bad into the evening, because we evolved eating when the sun was up. So that insulin resistance I mentioned earlier, we essentially get more insulin resistant, where your body just can't metabolize and transport its energy as well at night as it does during the day. But in terms of what you were talking about before, in terms of the melatonin production that your body produces when you go to bed, well, the amount that you produce, it's based on your gut bacteria. So if you're already eating a diet that has a really high in fiber and has that plant diversity, you're going to help with that production of melatonin and help to balance things out. So keep it simple.
So essentially, these consistent foods, these whole foods that are really nourishing, will actually help us like in that circadian rhythm, really. Like it will help us actually calm down when it's time for bed, and we won't have to maybe do as many breathing practices or yin yoga to get us there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That helps to regulate your body kind of you produce cortisol during the day to get you up, and then that goes down, and then you start to produce melatonin to get you ready for sleep. Your gut bacteria assist in the production of that melatonin.
Wow, the gut is so amazing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I hear all these things in passing all the time. I'm like, oh, Oprah said don't eat after 7:30, or like someone said the mind-gut connection is so strong. But listening to you speak about it this way has really changed the way that I understand it and value it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just so amazing. So lucky to have you here, Jess.
Great to be here.
Yeah, well, you've given us so much to work with. I don't really know. Is there anything else that you think is important to mention before we close up tonight?
I would just say that if there's one takeaway that I would add here, it's that every single day, try to eat berries. Every single day, try to eat greens. And every single day, try to eat grains, whole grains. If you can eat those 3 foods every single day, you're going to be doing a lot better.
So what was it? Berries,
greens,
and grains. We need like an acronym for that.
Yeah.
It's not really a good one. DBG.
Increase your plant diversity. No matter what type of diet you prescribe to, that doesn't matter. Yeah,
just make sure it's abundant, it's nutritious, it's all the things that you mentioned. It's and like this is what we were saying before, making all of this sort of stuff accessible to everyone who doesn't maybe understand health in the comprehensive way that you do, because you've studied it and you know so much. It's really enlightening to hear you talk about it in I'm sure to you a very simple way, but it's giving a lot of insight and hope for us to feel like, oh yeah, we can be healthy too, and it's super important.
You have the power. It's in your fork. You have control of your life destiny.
So inspiring.
You really do. In terms of reducing your risk of having some sort of ailment in the future, and in terms of managing some sort of condition you have now, you have a lot more power than you think you do. And research supports that 100%. Yep.
Wow. It's I think we do forget that it is all in our hands, and we're very easily persuaded by things too. You know, we had this conversation before that a lot of these people that are trying to benefit you and your health are more concerned with making money or getting you to buy something that's actually taking you away from the things that are good for you, because they might not have a product anymore. Yeah. So it's good to know those myths as well, and that really, it's all up to us. It's not just the food that we choose, but it's how we think about it. It's how we feel. It's all interconnected. So thanks for reminding us that we all have the power. We just sometimes I think forget to know how to access it.
Absolutely.
So we got to come back to all these practices. Well, I think we've covered a lot, Jess, and you've just been amazing. So the last little thing would be like if someone were interested in having a consultation with you and knowing a little bit more about how to personalize a well-being regime, or I'm not really sure how you'd call it, but where could they find you and how could they go about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a website. It's Alaya, Alaya, holistichealth.com. And you can also find me at the same name on Facebook and on Instagram.
All right, beautiful. What I'll do is I'll once all this finishes up, I'll put all of that in the comments or in the title, whatever's easier, and yeah, people can have access to it straight away.
Awesome.
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Jess, and yeah, I feel really inspired and empowered by you, and I'm gonna buy berries tomorrow. Are goji berries good? I've got goji berries in the cupboard.
Then no better than blueberries or raspberries and I mean they're dried, so they don't have any water in them, and so
Okay.
because they're dried, their glycemic index or how much they release their sugar into the body is a bit higher than
Okay.
and they're more expensive. So
yeah, they are. All berries are pretty expensive though, which is a real bummer.
at the moment,
Yeah.
I buy frozen berries. So frozen
That's
berries,
true. Yes.
yeah. So frozen berries, their freshness is essentially frozen. So
Yeah, it's all locked in there.
the vitamin C as when they were picked or when they were frozen, as opposed to fresh berries. I mean, it depends how long it's been since they've gone from the farm to the supermarket. And so, and they're usually cheaper and they're just a lot easier to manage. I always get the mixed berries.
I totally forgot about frozen berries. That is just, I'm going to go buy frozen berries. So easy too. You can just chuck them in a smoothie. You can put them on your porridge, heat it up in the microwave.
Yeah, it's just there for a minute. And when you do that, you don't destroy any of the antioxidants in the blueberries.
When you get the frozen ones?
You microwave them. You don't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If for a minute, it's been tested, it actually increases the antioxidant value for some reason of blueberries.
Weird. I would not have thought that. But there you go. I don't feel so bad about using the microwave anymore.
It's actually a giant steamer. Yeah. And if it makes it convenient, I use it all the time. It's easier for me to get more veg in. So I use that. I'm time.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I'm glad you're an advocate for that. I suppose as well, just lastly, if anybody did want like just a little bit more, we could also advocate for frozen veggies, frozen anything. Yeah.
Yes. So caveat to that. So if you're doing, and this might get a little bit too sciencey, but green beans have way more vitamin C than fresh, because in that travel time, green bean vitamin C, and I'm not talking about like red kidney beans or anything like that. I'm talking about, the long green beans, which is a vegetable. It's not a legume, even though they're both called beans. And so frozen are best. But if you do frozen cauliflower or broccoli or any of those other cruciferous vegetables like kale and Brussels sprouts and a lot of the Asian greens, they've been blanched. So they've been pre-boiled before frozen. Now, what that means is that there's a nutrient in there that once you cook them, you can't really access. So it's better. Yeah, it's a sciencey thing, because the heat denatures an enzyme that activates one of the most potent phytonutrients that has been discovered. It's called sulforaphane, if anyone wants to look it up. So if you ever do have frozen cauliflower or broccoli, make sure you eat it with like rocket or arugula, whatever you want to call it, or baby spinach. So you're adding raw cruciferous to it, because that has the enzyme. You'll be able to access the sulforaphane in those frozen vegetables. So because different foods have different nutrients, I don't want to say all frozen veggies, because those ones are a little bit different in terms of what's available in them.
Yeah. Okay. Whoa, man.
No,
it's good to know. It's good to know, because how would we know any of these things? We wouldn't.
And it's kind of a little hack.
Yeah. I'm all about the hacks.
Yeah.
So little Mac attack is just creeping up on me now. Like, you're nearly done now, Alana.
Mum back.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Jess. Absolute pleasure to have you. And yeah, I'll make sure I get all your details up on the live when we finish up. And have a nice evening, and see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah. Have a
All
good
right.
lockdown, everyone.
Yeah, yeah. Happy lockdown. Get your berries. All right. See you, Jess.
See ya.